Second, Hagar, a servant of Sarai, where have you come from? So they all messed up. Things had turned out terrible, and everyone was suffering. Then they became helpless. There was nothing they could do. Abraham could do nothing, and Sarai could do nothing, and Hagar could do nothing. They were really helpless. Then God intervened into the situation and took care of the mess. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. Look at verses 8 and 9. Let's read these verses together. Let's go. And he said, Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going? I'm running away from my... Then the angel of the Lord told her, go back to your mistress and submit to her. How was Hagar in the desert? She was very sorrowful, lonely, and scared. It was all because of her fault, her immaturity. Because she despised her mistress, she ran away. But in the desert, she did not think that way. Instead, she was just genuinely broken, crying, maybe, why my life is so hard like this? How come no one understands me? And she was crying and crying and crying. Her future was unknown. Mostly, she would perish in the desert. It seemed that she was all alone. Then God visited her and talked to her. This must have been a big thing to her. God called Hagar a servant of Sarai, reminding her of her position. That was Sarai's servant. As Sarai's servant, she was not supposed to despise her mistress. She was not supposed to flee from her either. It was her fault. Based on this, God gave her the direction to go back to Sarai and submit to her. Here we learn God's way of helping people. That is to help them clarify their position and keep it. Let's say in your family you have certain conflict. Then God comes to your family and then tries to settle the matter. So what would God do? God would show you what you are, your position, and then what you are supposed to do based on your position. And then God will say, do this, then you'll be okay. And then the things you went beyond that, don't do that. Apologize. God will say that. And then the other person, God will do the same thing. This is God's way. God helps us to clarify our position and keep it. So many problems occur at work, at home, and even in the church. And many people suffer, all because some people went beyond their position and said or did what they were not supposed to say and do. That's what Satan did, going beyond his position. And that's how Adam and Eve fell. And that's how today so many people become Satan's instruments at home, at work, and even in the church. So we need to really remember our position. What is my position? And then based on that, we can see what we can think of and say, and then what we can do. Other than that, don't do it. This is God's way. Those who fear God keep their position, but those who are rebellious don't care. So don't be those rebellious people. Think about how Judas Iscariot became Satan's instrument. At the Last Supper, when Jesus exposed his betrayal openly with a piece of bread, his response was not so good at all. He just grabbed it and just left, showing that when Jesus exposed his betrayal openly, he was really upset, angry. And then when he grabbed it and left the room, he was determined that he would bring harm on Jesus, revenge. That's how he became Satan's instrument. About that, the Bible says, Satan entered into him. That's how people become Satan's instruments. Never give in to that sense of frustration or anger or you want to do some revenge on others. Never go that way. Instead, keep your position in your words and actions. In verse 10, God promised Hagar that he would increase her descendants, that they would be too numerous to count. In Genesis chapter 25, we see that her son Ishmael had 12 sons, and they all became leaders, forming even kingdoms. The descendants of the first son, Nebios, and the second son, Kedar, are mentioned in the Bible several times. These Nabateans and the Kedarites fought against the Assyrian Empire. And later, they teamed up with the Babylonian Empire and fought against the Assyrian Empire, thus playing a certain role in the rise of the Babylonian Empire. The Nabateans were the very ones who occupied Petra. Long time ago, when I was checking out the Petra, I saw these names, the Nabateans. Who are they? I was so confused. Who are these people? I've never heard about. But the Nabateans were the descendants of Ishmael, the first son of Ishmael. You know Petra, right? Didn't you watch Transformers? There you see Petra, that old city, in the kind of cave or they occupied Petra after the Edomites. The historians say that when Judah was destroyed in 586 BC and taken captives to Babylon, so that land was empty, and the Edomites a lot of Edomites moved into the Israel area. So Edomites, originally Petra was occupied by it belonged to the land of Edom, the Asher's descendants, Jacob's half-brother. But now Edom was empty, so the Nabateans moved into this area. Soon Petra was developed into a big city with about 200,000 population. It was their capital city. The Nabateans supported the Hasmonean dynasty in their fight against the Seleucid kingdom in Syria. They also fought against Herod the Great, and later, as an ally of the Roman Empire, they flourished throughout the first century. They formed a huge empire. Its power extended far into Arabia, along the Red Sea to Yemen, including Syria, modern-day Syria, Jordan, Sinai Peninsula, and about 1/3 of Saudi Arabia. Then by the 5th century, they had converted to Christianity under the influence of Rome, Pax Romana. They enjoyed prosperity. Then Christianity was introduced, and they had converted to Christianity. Then later in the 6th century, their lands were divided among new Arab invaders such as the new Arab people from Qatarites, and then the Ghassanid Arabs. I checked out Wikipedia, and the Himyarite vessels, and the Kinda Arab kingdom in North Arabia. These people, some of them later converted to Christianity. And then later in the 7th century, the beginning of the 7th century, when the Islam movement began and spread. Islam began in 610 AD. And then it spread in the Middle East very quickly. Majority of them became the Islamic kingdoms. That's just the first and second sons of Ishmael's 12 sons. Indeed, as God promised, the descendants of Ishmael were numerous, and they played significant role in the history of the Middle East.